Hey everybody, it's Jenny of the Jenny Evolution. Some of you also know me as the mom behind the Sensory Spectrum. And if you're not familiar with the Sensory Spectrum, it's a website dedicated to parents of kids with sensory processing disorder or who have sensory issues, which is very common. But today we are going to be talking about how to help our children to sleep, in particular sensory kids, because a lot of times kids who are sensitive or have sensory challenges also have a much more difficult time getting to sleep, staying asleep, and trust me, it's the bane of our existence as parents because we need to sleep. We don't function if we don't get the sleep that we need. At least I know I don't, my husband doesn't, and the fact is I am quote unquote an older mom, and so sleep just affects me that much more. So today we're going to be talking about how can we help our kids get to sleep. And there's a lot of great tricks that I think a lot of times parents sometimes overlook. So let's kind of talk about some of them today. There are obviously the usuals, routine, making sure your child has a bath, but I'm not talking about the regular everyday tricks that we've all heard from a million different people. I'm talking about some of the stuff that maybe you haven't thought about. The first one is talking about your kid's sensory diet. Now, if you haven't heard the term sensory diet, it's about how do you address your kid's sensory needs every single day. It could be, and obviously it's specific to your child. So if your child needs a lot of physical outlets, it's making sure that they get the amount of physical proprioceptive outlets that they need. For example, we literally keep a mini trampoline in our TV room almost the whole year round. The only time it's probably not in our TV room is the summer because there's a trampoline outside. This is something that's really important. My kids will jump on it, and some days I can tell that they just need an outlet and they're not thinking about it. And so I go send them for 5 minutes on the trampoline and they just feel reset. So it's thinking about what your child specifically needs. Those are my kids, but there are other different sensory things that parents need to think about throughout the day. So sometimes when kids are trying to settle down for the night, if their needs aren't met during the day, they're not able to turn off and really settle down at night. So it's something to think about. Also, it could be, when I talk about sensory diet, it also could be that maybe they got too much stimulation. Some kids don't do well with getting overwhelmed with sensory stimuli. So sometimes if you're wound up and your brain's going and you just, even though the sensory stuff has left, it has not really left the building. It's still in their brains. They're still trying to calm down their bodies. I mean, we've all had those nights where you just can't seem to turn off your brain and you can't stop thinking. And so also part of that sensory diet is for your children to be able to turn off their brains. So one of the things that we have implemented in our house is we always keep some sensory toys on hand. We carry some around with us. Some stay in my kids' rooms. And actually, I'll show you a couple of our favorites. First of all, Tangle Juniors. Oh my gosh, we love these. There's almost always at least one in my purse. These are the junior ones because they're smaller. They're easily portable. The big ones are fabulous too. But I don't even know if I can put this down now that I picked it up. But it's a great way to just kind of work out the hands, kind of just turn off the brain, focus on the kinds of shapes you can make with it. It feels fabulous. Another thing we keep around are glitter wands. If you haven't seen these, oh my gosh, could you just not stare at this forever? But, I mean, look at this thing. So, when you're thinking about trying to get your child to sleep at night, sometimes giving them something to fixate on and kind of turn off their brain is a great way to get things slowed down. And I mean, especially if you have little ones, you can almost turn it into a game, like help me find 3 X's or help me find, and it's just a way to kind of bring down the senses. Another thing we love is Crazy Erin's Thinking Putty. Love this stuff. Don't think we could get through without it. And you can find these easily on my site as well. Another thing to think about is making the bed as comfortable as possible. I think a lot of times we think about bed as it is a great place to go to sleep and get comfy cozy, but what's comfortable for us is not necessarily comfortable for our children. So One thing I immediately did for my sensory kid was we upped the game on our mattress pad. We got one that was fluffier. We got one that had a quote unquote smoother cotton, a better thread count cotton. And it does make a huge difference in how his bed feels. You know, we think about a mattress pad just as something that you add, but it can really make a difference. Don't go buy those pancake thin ones. Get some that's fluffier that makes them feel more invited into the bed. Also, I found these fabulous sateen sheets. They're made by Martha Stewart. I found them at Macy's. You can get them there. I'm sure you can get them online as well. But they're sateen. They're not satin, they're sateen. And they just are smoother. They feel better against the skin, particularly if you have kids who don't like things against their skin. They have tactile issues. The sateen sheets are fabulous. Really, I can't say enough about them. You know, I'm embarrassed to say it took me a little while to figure that one out. We had these fabulous organic cotton sheets, but when you got really in the bed, it didn't bother me, but when I thought about my tactile kid, I really could see how it would bother him. So I would really recommend upping the sheets. And quite honestly, the sateen sheets are nominal. Also, a big thing in our house are satin pillowcases. Now, don't laugh, don't judge. My sons have gone gaga for satin pillowcases. I grew up with them for some reason. I love them. They feel cool when you put your head on the pillow. And my boys love the satin pillowcases. They really do make a difference in how the pillow feels and you know, kind of getting into that bed routine. Another thing to think about is adding in essential oils. Now, I know some people use melatonin, they use other things, but you know, we started using lavender oil in my son's room. We use a diffuser. I know other people put that in like a coconut oil or a carrier oil, and then just put a little quick swipe on their kids' feet. One of my friends swears by the oil on the feet. She used melatonin for years, finally gave up and popped over to the essential oils, and it completely changed how her son sleeps at night. So there really is something to think about that. And you know, my kid is a super smeller. I mean, he walks in the house and he can tell if anything new is in the house from the way it smells. But the lavender oil he really loves, and makes a huge difference on how he sleeps at night and how he sleeps through the night. He definitely does better when we use it properly. Another thing is to create a nighttime refuge. Now, you know, we've talked about making beds more comfortable, but I want you to walk into your child's room and really think about how their room feels to them. Is it a place that hugs them at night? Is it a place where they can at night? For example, this year we added in a green lava lamp. I know, right? From the 70s. It's fabulous. I mean, first of all, it's a great visual and it's calming. It puts out this wonderful nightlight glow in the room. It's on all night because my kids don't like to sleep in the dark. And it's just been a great way to add to it. We've also had those fabulous turtle night lights, you know, that do the constellations up onto the ceiling. And so when my son was younger, when he was a toddler, we had one of those, and he could pick the color. As I recall, it was amber, green, and blue. They still make these fabulous toys. You pop it on the floor, you pop it on their bed or dresser, you turn it on, and it put moon and stars all over the ceiling. But again, it creates that kind of feeling of coziness and getting into bed. Another thing we did was we also bought CD players for the boys, and we put together nighttime songs for them. They have two actually. One is nighttime lullabies that are like kiddie songs. Another one are actually nighttime lullabies of adult songs that I thought were proper for kids, and my kids absolutely love them. And actually, I sing them a song every night, and finally my son asked me to record it, and I added it to the CD in the beginning and at the end. So my voice is the first thing he hears, and it's the last thing he hears at night, and he just adores that. Another thing to think about is maybe a white noise machine. If you have a sensory kid, gosh, they hear everything. And so it can really make it tough. You know, you're still up and around and moving around. So sometimes a white noise machine or you know, a big air purifier, that type of thing can help drown out sounds to help your kids actually go to sleep and stay asleep. Again, particularly if they are very aware of sounds. You know, my kids would hear things down the block and then come out asking me about it, and I'm just like, please go to bed. Seriously. So these are some small changes that we've done to the rooms, but really together, and when you aggregate them, they make them such a huge difference. So my charge to you is to go into your child's room, really look around and think about from their perspective how their room feels. So when you're talking about trying to get your kid to go to sleep, but also to stay asleep, don't think about how you would approach your room. Think about what your child thinks about their room and how they approach it, and kind of make it just a full embracing safe haven for your kids. This will make a huge difference in getting your sensory kids to sleep and getting them to sleep through the night as well. I wish you all luck, parents. I know we all need our sleep, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Jenny Evolution.